Howdy y'all, you got the Bulldog on the channel. We're at it again. This time what we got, Toyota Highlander with a 3.3 in it. Customer request for timing belt and water pump replacement. Now he wants us to go ahead while we have it in here to change his spark plugs also. So that's going to involve most likely removing that intake because they didn't leave much of a way to get back in there. But I'll get everything set up and we're going to dive into it here. Now, while you're following me with the joy of time-lapse, you might think about this, that every frame that you're seeing is like 2 seconds. So, yeah, whenever you say something like, can you take a look at the timing belt real quick? Well, I can take a real quick look at the timing belt, but it's going to take me 45 minutes or an hour to get to the point where I can take that quick look. Here we go. And one sign that, you know, it's getting some wear on it is you can see on the back side of the belt where the teeth are. You know, that means it's been wearing a little bit it's bending right here. That's not horrible, but you don't wait till it gets horrible. I'm going to take this cover the rest of the way off for the top and we'll get a really good look at it. The cover out of there. Now, getting that thing out, you had to get it off of the belt first before it'll slide this way and up and out. You gotta have patience. That stupid AC line down there was in the way, right here. That's what was holding us up. But this is why it's kind of imperative to do preventative maintenance. I mean, looking at it, you don't see anything wrong. And really, there's not. Like I said, you can see where the teeth are on the back side. That's just because it bends back and forth around the pulleys. That's where it shows up. But the reason that is like that is because the rubber starts to fatigue along those lines. That's where they start to crack. Because rubber gets old, it gets brittle, it starts to age. And these teeth will start to crack off to the inside and it'll start to crack along the back side of the belt. Once there are visual signs on the belt that it needs replaced, then it needs replaced right now. You don't have very long. Sorry if I'm a little shaky, but I'm still not well. But this has got 100,000 miles on this belt. That's the change interval. That's what we're doing. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and take all these brackets off, take the serpentine belts off, and you can't see it really, but those belts look pretty sad. So we're gonna plan on replacing those as part of this service because, you know, why not? It's free. Okay, here we are with these belts. You can see, there it is. They're pretty cracked up. Gonna have to be replaced. Probably original. Here, this one's wider, so it's Not as bad, but still pretty rotted. And you know, that one's been replaced. The gates. Oh no, that one's a Toyota. Yeah, that's original. That's why they're a little different. So now got the little splash shield off here, and you'll yank that pulley there and pull off the remaining cover, and I think there's a mount up in here that has to come out, and we'll be where we can get to that belt. Word of warning, take this piece and set it inside your cover. So when you go to pick up your cover, you realize, oh yeah, I gotta put this on before I put the cover on, because it goes on the inside. Those who know, you know. You don't know, just trust me, because you don't want to know. Now, when I was up top, I saw that the marks looked like they were getting pretty close, and I wiped this off, and I see this little dot right here, and up here you see a little bump up on top. And I'll bet you if I rotate this around, line this bump up to this bump, I will have marks lined up clear up top. Okay, you'll get to find out with me. I'll sit here. Come on. Yes. Yeah, it gets really easy when you get up to the top. So you gotta try to put enough in it that it moves. There we go. That's right on TDC. You can run past it real easy. Now, let's see here. There's our marks. Gotta get my light to work. There's the mark. Come on. Okay, there we go. Mark. And mark. And that's another thing that makes it really easy whenever the belt has some age on it, because the mark is on this pale space here, and it's lining up almost perfect to this mark right here. There's some belt stretch, so it's just a little bit, you know, wrong, but this is the deal. This groove right here has to line up with this mark right there. Patience, you know. Most of the time, timing marks are not all that complicated. Sometimes they're really freaking confusing. Sometimes they're really tedious. But remember, when it comes to timing marks, there are a few mistakes to make, but there are no small mistakes. Double check. Now here comes the question. Do we do seals? This thing is dry as a bone. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't be leaking in a year, but in my experience, with the way parts are, and this has been going back a long time, if you do something preventative, maybe it lasts out the vehicle, maybe it don't. I don't know. If you had any kind of a leak in here, yeah, go ahead, get in there and get that seal changed, because you're there. but I wouldn't go any further than this. It's dry. Toyota did have a little bit of problem some years ago with seals, but it seems to have been solved in the 2000s. In the early 2000s, a lot of Camrys and stuff, I'd go in there and you do every seal on it. Literally every one on the engine, everything but the head gasket, because everything was leaking. These, I don't see too much of an issue. So unless you have an issue, I would advise don't worry about it, but that's up to you. You know, it's your vehicle. Okay, we got the belt off here, and as you can see, it's not horrible. You can see the fatigue bleeding through the backside of the belt where it's always been bending, but there's no cracks anywhere. There's some dimples across the backside of it, but I don't see anything that scares me. And this tells me it was a really good belt, because along there, that's where you would start to see cracks forming, right along that crease. You'd see cracks forming on both sides of the tooth, because the tooth would be trying to peel off of the back. We don't see anything like that. So we got this taken care of before it became an issue. You don't ever want to retension an old belt. If you're doing a head or something like that, unless they have proof that that belt has been changed like in the last few weeks, you don't reuse that belt. Because if I took that belt and put it back on here and retensioned it, it's going to be broke in a month. That thing's already stretched out all the way. You retension it, it has no elasticity left, it's going to snap it. It's just how it is. And when it comes to the thought of preventative maintenance, looky there. This pump was not leaking, but as you can see, it was leaking. It just wasn't making it to the ground. That's the weep hole. Because it's inside, they have that channel right there. It's a weep hole to get it to the outside so that it's not leaking in here on the belt. A little bit of leakage inside, not much. You know, as you can see, it is very dry in here. No oil leaking, no antifreeze leaking, but that is a significant beard on that water pump there. It is time for a replacement. Okay, now our kit comes with a new tensioner, idler, a new tensioner, and a new idler. Now, this thing here, I couldn't hear it, but we'll see if we can get it up close. That is exactly what we don't want to put back on this vehicle, is a problem. This thing's got 200,000 miles on it. This stuff's supposed to be changed out at 100,000 miles. Customer claims it's never been touched. Think about that. I can believe that on that water pump. But we got a good quality part. The belt and everything, the brand of the water pump, stuff that, you know, I have a decent amount of faith in. Not 100%. I'm not 100% on anything. You know, everybody can screw you over. But got a pretty good idea that these things are going to be good. All right, now I got that water pump out of there. You look underneath there and see that cover, that rear cover for the belt, where it goes in behind the sprockets. And not only does it go behind the sprockets, but the bolts out there are behind the spokes of the sprockets, so you cannot take them out without moving the cams. So that means that cover can't move. And right here on the water pump, you can see where that cover covers up the very top lip. I don't want you spoiled, Doc. What I did was I took out this stud that was sticking through there and this stud that was sticking through there with my stud removal tool. And that gets me enough movement to where I can peel it out, because these 3 bolts are little short studs. I can pop it out there, and once I got it clear of them, I snapped it out. Putting the new one back in might be a little bit of an adventure, but we'll burn that bridge when we come to it. Now this gasket is a metal framed, rubber lined gasket, so you can put it on dry, no sealant. And tipping it up underneath that cover is not fun, but it's possible. So we're gonna stick that pump up in there, and then we'll blow all this junk off before I start putting the rest of the parts back on. Okay, we're getting our lines all lined up here. You can see there is a white line right there that goes along where that dot is on the crank pulley. And this tab right here, it doesn't sit extremely close, but it's close enough that it takes a lot to make this belt jump. It gets in the way. It won't let the belt come out far enough to jump teeth. So that's really handy. They started putting that on there a few years ago. It used to be a nightmare keeping everything aligned. But I have this one on there. You put that on there first, and you have that lined up like it needs to be. Now, up here, here's what I do. Of course, we've got our line right there, and you put your white mark on the dot, on the slit, and I just put a clothespin, is what I got right now. In the past, what I have used is what they call bulldog clips. They're them big, gnarly black paper clips that you clip big bundles of paper with. And those things work really nice. All over the edge of a cam gear, you put your belt on there, you clip them things on there, and all it takes is all this belt just to bubble up just a little bit, and it falls off or slips, or it tries to get off, and they're not fun. But that holds it down in place, and it doesn't take much pressure just to hold it down into that groove a little bit, and it stays in place. Frees your hands up to work everywhere else. So we're gonna put the back cam on, and I'll put the tensioner. I got the tensioner pulley in there, but I don't have the tensioner piston in yet. You leave that out until you got the belt lined up, and then you put the piston in there. You line everything up, make sure your lines are good, and then pop the pin. Okay, this back cam, it's almost impossible to see, so you get back in there with a mirror and look, and you can just barely see it. I can see it better than you can with the camera. There we go. You see where that mark lines up with that white mark on the belt? That means it's lined up. And of course, this one's lined up like that. The belt is taut right here. Not tight, but taut. We go down here, and if I can get situated, that's lined up to that little dot. That little mark there is, pretty darn close. That's not as important as getting them marks lined up on the belt. They didn't used to have those marks on the belt. I dare not say idiot proof. Nothing's idiot proof. It's idiot resistant. But now I'll pull the pin on the tensioner there. Hopefully this grenade doesn't go off. Then I'll reassemble everything. I had to pull them studs out to get that water pump out of there. So I should be able to put that bracket in without lifting the motor up again. So I'll revisit whenever I get some stuff done. All right, as you can tell by the change of scenery behind me, I'm no longer at the shop. Things got kind of hectic, and I forgot to film again. I forgot to film an outro, but everything went back together real well. Nothing of note during reassembly. You know, once you get that belt put back on and you know all the marks are lined up, you pull the pin on your grenade, wait for it to blow up. Should take us another 100,000. Customer request for an oil change, which I got taken care of. Spark plug change, which involved pulling the upper intake, but was not a big deal. So didn't film any of that. Things were getting kind of late anyway. But we strained our antifreeze, put it back in there, topped it off, and took it out for a test drive. Everything's great. So like, comment, subscribe, hit your little bell notification, share it all around. We'll talk to you later.